And what's up? What's up? Welcome in. It is GC Live Friday edition of the show. Closing out what has been, golly, probably one of the wilder, more interesting weeks. And really what's been maybe the most interesting couple of months, I think, since we've covered South Carolina. Glad to be here. Glad to close out the week. He is Chris Clark. I'm Wes Mitchell. This is GC Live. And of course, as we told you on Wednesday, now presented and sponsored by Clint Hammond of Mortgage Network. Want to thank Clint again for, being our presenting sponsor. And always, Chris, like to do business with our shows and our sponsors and stuff like that with people we already know and that we already trust and can sort of believe everything we tell people about them. So happy to have Clint on. If you're looking to refinance, you're looking to buy a house, whatever your mortgage needs are right now, Clint is your guy. You can contact him. He is the branch manager for the Mortgage Network here in Columbia, 803-771-6933. C. Hammond at mortgagenetwork.com or mobile 803-422-6797. And he's a huge Gamecock fan, and he's a guy that is a Gamecock Central subscriber. So all check marks for Clint, and we are thrilled to have Clint as our presenting sponsor here on GC Live today and into the future. So happy to have him on. Chris, the big news today would be Jimmy Lindsey coming on board as South Carolina's defensive line coach. I would say that you would probably say this has sort of been anticipated. I think as we were tracking names, we looked into, a few different possibilities, but it seems like Jimmy Lindsey's name sort of made a lot of sense from the beginning. And B, that was the name we consistently heard maybe a little bit more than the other names. So that news comes out, I guess this morning. It was late this morning. But your thoughts, we'll get into details as we go on, but your initial thoughts on Jimmy Lindsey being hired as South Carolina's defensive line coach.
Yeah, I mean, it did, like you said, Wes, make a ton of sense. I mean, so the morning that we confirmed Tracy Rocker was going to be out, we put out that name of Jimmy Lindsey, the one and only name we put out there for the D-line vacancy, and sort of the one that we heard from the start, right? So the initial thought is, it makes sense because of the tie to Clayton White, coached with Clayton White, defensive coordinator now at South Carolina for 3 seasons, 27 through 2019, at Western Kentucky. As his defensive line coach. He was D-line coach in 2017, coached the D-ends in 2018 and 2019, and was the recruiting coordinator as well there. And also a Sherrall native. I know some of the stuff in his bios say North Carolina. He was born in Sherrall, spent some time in Sherrall, eventually moved, from my understanding, to North Carolina. So another, Palmetto State native, a guy that's well regarded in terms of recruiting. So it made a ton of sense from the beginning.
By the way, shout out to our chatters, our degenerates. Chris, they're saying that I took your haircut money.
You did.
Shout out to my buddy Aiden, who cut my hair. She does a great job. But it is Free for All Friday, even though we do have some things to actually hit on as well. Some news, as has been the case a lot lately. But we'll get to y'all's questions as well. So, Chris, And first of all, it has apparently been a matter of debate on the Gamecock message boards about if is this guy actually from Sherrall, which, as you said, he is. I'm sure he could provide proof, but we don't need him to do that.
And documentation of how long, which restaurants were visited, did he go to daycare there, etc.
Played high school ball in Anson County.
Yeah,
right across the border there in North Carolina. But I think Chris, man, again goes back. Let's steal the word. Let's go back to the word fit. And you look at a lot of times these coaches want guys they're comfortable with, and want guys that are familiar with maybe the specifics of their scheme. And I think. If you have a great position coach coming in and he's just known as being an outstanding coach, he can learn the nuances probably of most systems. But there is some value, I think, to him having worked with Clayton White for 3 years, being at Western Kentucky, knowing the intricacies of this scheme, and being able to. And I'm going to pass on some insight we've gotten from some other people about him as well. But that familiarity with what he wants up front, defensive line play always key. Certainly going to be key for South Carolina with their questions at linebacker and DB. So. I think fit is the word that comes to mind for me again.
Yeah, and that interplay between those two, I think is going to be pretty key, right? Particularly because you think about, Clayton. So 2 points. Clayton White was walking into a situation willingly, at South Carolina where, would he hire a defensive coach? The answer was really no. I mean, aside from signing off on Taurean Gray, the other guys were on staff already. Mike Peterson, Tracy Rocker, those guys were on staff. And there were, limited slots because you have 5 coaches on offense. You have a special teams coach. You had 4 slots defensively, not a ton of flexibility in terms of numbers. And so with Rocker departing, that did give Clayton White his chance to sort of bring a guy, so to speak. You hear that a lot of times when coordinators are hired. If it's a new hire, sometimes they bring a bunch of guys. Sometimes they bring one, sometimes none, or everywhere in between. But this afforded him an opportunity to sort of bring a guy. Jimmy Lindsey was that guy. Second point is, a lot of times you'll see with coaches that they lean a lot on their position coaches, coordinators do for certain things. For instance, on third downs, that's a down that we've heard Clayton White has some creative things that he likes to do. And a lot of times he's sort of setting the coverage, right? But you're going to see it left up to the defensive line coach to, hey, if you have some type of game, some type of twist stunt you want to run up front, you make that call, and get it in. And so depending on how the defensive system works, sometimes you see that. And so I say that to illustrate the point of that trust is important. Having a guy that will make the types of calls that you want, being on the same page. And these guys have the track record of coaching together and doing a good job at Western Kentucky as well, working together.
No doubt. And I think, man, the more we've learned on Jimmy Lindsey, and I think a trend among these coaches is that I believe there's been an emphasis on people that have a track record of first and foremost being good people, like being good human beings, being guys that players can trust, being guys that will connect with players, not necessarily from a recruiting standpoint as like a salesman, but more maybe connect with players as far as a genuine sense, which I think, there's sometimes you see guys that are great recruiters and it's more that they're just very, very good salesmen and it's not necessarily always genuine. I was going to share, I posted this on Gamecock Central, a couple of guys, and you know how it is, man. Sometimes when you're reaching out to people trying to get a quote, trying to get some insight, depending on who you're asking, it can be like pulling teeth. But I asked a couple of people who I saw had, tweeted about the hire for some more insight. And within 2 minutes in each case, I got a paragraph, just praising Jimmy Lindsey. Let's see, I'll paraphrase. This is from Quentin Isom. He's currently a defense coordinator at Wren, somebody Chris and I both know, and has actually played at Gardner-Webb for Jimmy Lindsey on the defensive line. So he was his position coach. And he said he's a great coach, very skillful and technical in his position as a defensive line coach, a great motivator, and built great relationships with any and all recruits he comes in contact with. He's had several stints at various universities, but this is a still for South Carolina. I cannot wait to see his work on the field, along with his defense coordinator that came as well. I'm not even a South Carolina fan, and I know they are about to change the culture there. He's one of the best in the business and one of the coaches that inspired me to get into the coaching profession from high school to hopefully becoming a college coach as well. So that to me, man, that's pretty strong right there. Like, not that somebody, if they know someone, rarely is a coach, if you ask for insight, going to just say something negative, but to ask and not just get sort of the little coach speak type answers and get, a full paragraph. When a coach says he's one of the reasons I got into coaching and it's a former player, then that speaks volumes to me. And again, on Gamecock Central, I've got another quote that was actually very similar, but that stood out to me, man.
Yeah, it did. I mean, just a genuine type guy. And if you talk to people that have talked to him, if you even go back and look at, maybe some interview stuff he's done in the past at Illinois, Western Kentucky, he's not this, I don't know, I can't think of a great word today, maybe bombastic, personality where he's just over the top. But like you said, genuine, and a guy that, from what we've heard, is really good at building relationships, long-standing relationships. I heard from many coaches in Atlanta in the high school ranks who really, really think highly of Jimmy Lindsey. He's recruited a lot of different spots. He has some experience recruiting in the state of South Carolina and North Carolina, states that obviously he grew up in, and some other spots. But just about everywhere he's been, I believe, he recruited the state of Georgia and normally Metro Atlanta. So a lot of the coaches around there know him and like him. And so obviously that's an area in Georgia and Atlanta. There's a lot of players. And so can you tap into, some of those relationships to be able to get some guys on campus and make a run at some talented guys? Maybe so. Maybe that helps. But a well-regarded guy within the industry. And I've had other, people in the industry today just tell me on their own that they've heard good things about Jimmy Lindsey as well.
Let's hit our super chat here, Chris. What's up to Greg? Appreciate the Friday spending money, man. He says, with RJ coming back, will he most likely slide into a safety role, or do you see his more suited as a spur? Several people weighing in on that. I think, Chris, that I actually would agree with Kimberly, who says that she thinks he fits better as a spur / linebacker. That's clearly going to be a big part of this defense, or we're assuming it is. It has been at Clayton White's other stops. I would imagine, as time goes on, certainly, and probably right off the bat, that's going to be a big part of this scheme here. He called it an aggressive, multiple 4-2-5 defense, and we've seen RJ play that role in the past. Now it wasn't really called a spur, but we've seen him play dime linebacker, which in passing situation,
combination drill. Sometimes we just do it just
the skill set you would need to play, very similar. We've seen him actually play some nickel early on in his career as well. I don't think he played much nickel this past season, but very similar skill sets. I think the thing with RJ that will either need to be improved or that you try to get him out of having to do as much is just the true man-to-man coverage with slot receivers, with these smaller, quicker guys where teams will look to isolate him.
Yep.
Use crossing routes, slant routes, basically these man-beater type routes. It's difficult for him to. Now, I think if you're RJ, you have to sort of, and you're the staff, you have to take it one of two ways. You have to either maybe try and slim and get faster, cut and head that way, or you have to sort of maybe go all in on bulking up a little bit more. And, I don't know if RJ wants to be a linebacker. My guess is he starts out at that spur spot. That's just a complete guess. But ultimately, this is a guy, if he put on a little bit more weight, I think he could probably be a pretty good will linebacker. I mean, he's already a physical kid. You don't have near the coverage responsibilities. And when you are covering guys, you're covering tight ends, you're covering running backs from out of the backfield, as opposed to, a slot receiver. So what are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, I mean, I just, my gut feel, and I don't know if this has been settled yet. It probably hasn't, with the staff just getting settled on the defensive side of the ball. It's now finalized. But, I would think probably nickel. I agree with you. But you got to look at the situation, especially with the defections in the secondary. I mean, they had some defections everywhere. And this was a group that was thin at safety last year, a little thin at nickel behind, Jamie Robinson. They had some other guys that could fit in there, but Jamie Robinson's gone. They're going to need help there. And so I feel like safety and nickel still makes the most sense. They're going to be guys that they play against that are going to be tough matchups for guys to match up man-to-man, especially. I mean, you look at, Kadarius Toney, for instance, who, obviously we know he did what he did against South Carolina last year, but that's a tough matchup, and teams can amplify that with their guys that don't do as well man-to-man coverage, like you said, Wes. But I still think that's probably the spot out of need that makes the most sense. And I think there is still room, I think, for RJ to get better. I think it just depends on where they slot him, and I think he does make sense in a nickel or a safety type of role.
Well, and Chris, I do see there's sort of frankly, there's a negative sentiment from the fan base right now about RJ. And, the expectations for RJ heading into last season were pretty high based on the way the staff was talking about him. I distinctly remember how much they talked about his consistency getting better in practice. We do have to remember this is still a kid who did not play a lot of defensive back in high school. He played a lot of quarterback, played on the offensive side of the ball, was still transitioning to the defensive side. I mean, I remember watching him at camp early on, and, you were saying, all right, the skills are here. The skill set is potentially here, but the technique, this was when he was in high school. The technique was, it was a long way to go. So maybe a fresh start, fresh staff, a little bit different ask of him as far as what they ask him to do. And frankly, I was about to say maybe he can be a big contributor on this defense. I almost kind of have to take it a step farther, man. They're going to need him to be a big contributor on this defense. So I think, the fans who are out for RJ, maybe just going to have to back off on that one a little bit and hope that he can have a good offseason and continue getting better. Because we've always thought this guy, or at least I've always thought RJ had some potential, is, a well put together kid, physically is strong, smart kid. Like maybe we underrated how much of a transition it can be. And yes, there were some physical matchup issues, but Chris, you and I have talked about this quite a bit, man. Playing safety in that scheme, very difficult. I know, you've sort of studied some tape, some not camp tape, some like tape from Muschamp's clinic tape. There's my word. Clinic tape. I've talked to a couple of people who were trying to learn the safety position and just have said, dude, this is hard. And it can be when you're mentally taxed, it can affect you physically as well as far as some things. So fresh start. Some people are rolling their eyes saying, I've seen all I need to see, and that's fine. But, he wouldn't be the first guy to really come on as an upperclassman and find a new comfort level and find a home. So, again, to me, RJ, South Carolina, if they're going to make any noise next year, dude, they're going to need some RJ Rodericks, some Sherrod Greens, some upperclassmen who have played, a pretty good bit, but have sort of had up and down results. They're going to need them to play very well next year.
Yeah, they need a lot of guys like that. I mean, you talk about those two on defense. You need more out of really all the upperclassmen that have a chance to contribute. Even a Brad Johnson. You go to offense, or Trey Smith, who, the returns were really good on Trey Smith as a freshman. Going over to the offensive side of the ball, and then he got hurt, and he's just never been back. Now it looks like he's ready to go. Can he stay healthy? Can he be consistent? I mean, there's these questions here, but he has talent, and so can he? They need these guys. They need RJ Roderick. I mean, he's a guy who's going to play, right? Because you look at the secondary situation, and it's not great in terms of the depth, and so they need a guy like him to be able to play a lot and to be able to play well when he's in there.
All right, shout out to Multi Maurice 2. I appreciate the beer money, my friend. He says, do you think Jordan Strachan will be better fit at defensive end or one of the linebacker spots in the 4-2-5 system? I tell you, Maurice, that's a great question, man. And I'm curious to see, Chris, how they decide to use this kid. Because, you look, he's listed 225 pounds. You know who he reminded me of just a little bit from what I saw? Who? Arden Key.
Arden Key?
Yeah, like there's a little Arden Key just to his length, but he's not the biggest guy. Can bend around the edge, though. Great first step. I think you look at him though. Is he really going to be one of these guys that can hold up down in, down out as a defensive end in the SEC? But is he a true linebacker in the SEC either? I'm curious to see and how, now that he's going to be in an SEC strength program, can you put 10, 15 pounds on him this offseason? Or is he already sort of at that point where, he was listed at 193 pounds out of high school. So is he still getting bigger? Is his body sort of maxed out as far as how much muscle he can carry? Those will be the things for me. I think, to me, Chris, he's one of those guys that some coaching staffs in the SEC would be like, this guy can't do this, this, and this. So how do we use him? Whereas a creative coaching staff, which if you're a South Carolina fan is what you hope you've hired, is going to be like, well, we don't want him doing this, but he's really good at this, this, and this. Let's move him around and sort of mold the defense to fit him. To me, he's maybe a linebacker in running downs and is a defensive end edge guy in passing downs.
Yeah, I think he is more of an edge guy. So is he playing a Will or Mike type linebacker? I don't know. Maybe he could be a Will backer type, but I think everything that we've heard associated with Jordan Strong since we've heard about him has been pass rusher. You talk about the pass rush aspect. So that to me makes me think that they're going to look to play him in those pass rushing situations off the edge. So is he going to come in and say, take snaps from Aaron Sterling on the first drive of the game on second down? I don't think so. Maybe eventually if he turns out to be a really good player. But I think he's a guy that you put in on third downs. I know you mentioned, I think it was our last show, Wes, on Wednesday, your pass rush package, whatever you want to call it, rabbits, NASCAR, whatever you call it. Maybe you have him out there on third downs and you let him try to go after the quarterback and pursue, because that's what he does best.
Definitely not, man. All the highlights I saw of him, he was lining up at defensive end. Now, I haven't watched like entire games, but he was listed as an outside linebacker. But to me, he's definitely more of an edge defensive end type guy. It's just, can he hold up against the run at this level? Let's see. Hey, Wes, this guy's name is Hey Wes and Chris, TGIF, absolutely TGIF. He wants to know if we will take Bitcoin as payment for beer money. Absolutely. We'll take any coin you have, honestly. But yeah, we'll take Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, whatever cryptocurrency y'all want to send our way. We can work with that as well. Let's see. There was a question a long time ago. Let me go find it. Don't tell me it went away. What happened? Let's see. So, well, I remember the question. I don't have your name anymore for some reason. So somebody had asked what the latest was with the two possible transfers from St. Francis, two guys, and Jason Brown, who plays quarterback, and then E.J. Jenkins, who plays wide receiver. And those guys are still currently not committed, so to speak. They're waiting until they are officially accepted by South Carolina. And at that point, they said they will be committing to South Carolina. So that's going well for Carolina so far. Like, the kids are excited about a possible offer. The kids want to be at South Carolina. The big thing is just admissions takes time. And, frankly, depending on who you ask, admissions either just is doing their job, doing what they are supposed to do and have to do. I know there's always sort of been a sense around South Carolina. We've heard this, Chris. I feel like admissions has been a thing literally since I've been following South Carolina. Even before I was working with, in this job, it was, can't admissions be faster? Can't admission, there was a big issue a decade ago with, or more than that, where Spurrier's like, if we can't get kids in who are NCAA qualified, I'm going to the beach. Yep. So it's certainly, let's be honest, man, it's certainly improved since back then. Right. Now there are, probably from what we've heard, some sports teams within South Carolina that get frustrated with admissions a little bit. You can't be, somebody used to have a great saying. It's that, you can't be Georgia on Saturday and be Harvard every other day of the week. basically.
That's right.
So the question was, what's the latest? The latest is they're still waiting on to be accepted to the school. When they are, they'll go to South Carolina. At least it sounds like, unless something changes. And if it's before the beginning of next week, it would be now. They go ahead and enroll. But if it's not, then it would be March 1st.
Yep, that's right. I don't really even have anything else to add there in terms of what you said. That's you've been certainly more on that story with the St. Francis transfers than I have. But yeah, that's everything that we've heard is as long as they're in. And we don't know, or I don't, Wes, full specifics on exactly which end or if it's both ends in terms of what they're waiting on and what the specific holdup is. But those are guys that in theory, could be on the commitment list soon in some form or fashion, or otherwise at South Carolina for this season. Just got to wait and see how it is. Lots of people are mixing us up today, Wes.
Yeah, I feel like I've been sniffing all day, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like man, I'm not sniffing at all. That Wes is on the left.
There's hold on. Yep. You see that right there? It has our name. It has our names. You're not sniffing, are you? I mean, I've been trying to.
I don't think you have been sniffling. I've
got a little runny nose. Yeah.
Unless
I don't have the Rona. Y'all can chill.
How do you know? Have you been tested this morning?
Well, all right. We're not going into.
Everybody that says, "Well, I've just got allergies, but it's definitely not corona," or I've just got a little bit of a sore throat, it's definitely not corona. Every person I've talked to that says that has it. So
gummit, Chris.
Well, I'm just saying, don't say that you don't have it if you don't know. You gotta know.
Okay.
You gotta take your temperature. You're a little red too. You might have a temperature.
Dude, they've been saying you've been red for every day.
I am. I do get red.
Brad making fun of me for being into crypto. Says he has some imaginary land for sale.
Hey, did you read about that guy, Wes, that
he has $200 million locked up?
He's got like 2 passwords up. I'm over here sweating when I can't remember, like, I don't know, like a bank login or something, and I'm about to get locked out. I don't have $200 million on the other side like he does. So,
and Brad, Bitcoin's worth like $40,000 now. So I think we're past the point of making fun of it as being imaginary. It's literally worth. It used to be worth less than a cent, and now it's worth 40 grand. 3 and 20 says, "Happy Friday, fellas. Happy Friday to you too, sir." Sip one on 3 and 20. Any smoke still with Brent Key? Thought he was talking about a different type of smoking for a second when he was talking about sipping and smoking. Appreciate it if you check our tunes out on all streaming platforms and YouTube. Country Soul Duo from Easley. All right, so we got a free shout out to 3 and 20. Go check them out on all the streaming platforms and YouTube. And appreciate the tip, man. I haven't, Chris, have you heard any more smoke on Brent Key? Obviously, that was a hot name for a reason. I think it's safe to say South Carolina made a run at him. Taking a guy from his alma mater, even if maybe he was interested, which sounds like he may have been, was going to be tough in the end. And it's one of those situations, man. I feel like this happens a lot where maybe a coach is frustrated with some little things and, well, fine, I'm leaving, I'm going to go find another opportunity.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, it's like that couple that we all know is going to stay together, but they basically like, oh, well, I'm breaking up with you. Well, it's one thing to like say it, but a lot of these coaches, it's another thing to actually pick up your family and move and go to a different place and start over. That's my impression is kind of one of those situations.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And, it's tough to leave. It's tough to actually leave a place. And particularly, Brent Key played there. He left Alabama to go back to Georgia Tech. He was the O-line coach at Alabama. He leaves to go back to Tech. So, yeah, I mean, and was it pretty sort of advanced at one point? It looked like it, it looked like it, but didn't end up happening. I did see, I have seen that there's been some rumblings or some stuff saying that, hey, maybe it's back on the back on the front burner or something. But my understanding, I haven't heard anything about it. And I even checked with some people over at Georgia Tech, and just no indication that that's happening right now. I don't know if it's because of the delay in getting to an O-line coach, if that's what it is. I am checking on it again just to make sure, but we have not heard anything else about Brent Key. All indications are that he was staying.
Dang, man, they're still saying that you look bad or something. I don't get it.
Is it me, or is it actually me they're talking about? Because earlier we didn't know who was who.
Cartwright says it's you, not confused.
Huh.
I don't know. I mean, you look pretty normal to me. That's how he always looks, y'all.
Normally bad, yeah. I don't know, guys. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I'm red. I'm sorry. I don't know what do you want me to do?
Oh man, we gotta get a sponsor for the generous. Something that fits. Let's see. Any info on the PWO quarterback Helfrich? I haven't been able to, I'm supposed to talk to the kid at some point. Here, I might see if I can pull up some huddle for y'all and we can just watch him right now. But generally, preferred walk-ons, I mean, it's not a situation where there's necessarily, Chris, wouldn't you say there's not really necessarily a huge expectation for a PWO to just come in and play? Now, sometimes it does happen, but that's a very, very rare situation.
Well, and, right now, if I'm not mistaken, Wes, one walk-on quarterback on the roster in Connor Jordan.
Yes.
And so you'd have to figure South Carolina is going to up that number in some form or fashion. Obviously they're looking into the potential of landing another quarterback, maybe on a scholarship basis with, Jason Brown, a scholarship transfer. But in addition, you're always looking at bolstering your walk-on ranks. And so bringing in another guy from Charlotte, I think the connection there is Marcus Satterfield, just from some early indications. Makes sense, and don't know a lot about him yet, though.
Sorry, I'm just reading the chat. All right, so Travis asked me earlier if I put gel in my tips, and he said, "Sorry, I'm black. I don't understand how that works." But so Travis, no, there's not gel. When I was in middle school, now maybe, yeah, probably some gel in there. That was popular at that time, but right now, no. These days, no gel for me. I don't roll that way. I just let it sort of do what it wants to do. All right, so what else we got to talk about, man?
We got another
Taurean Gray.
Chat.
Do what?
We got to hit Jeffrey Hicklin's super chat.
Oh, how did I miss that?
I don't know.
Are you near it?
Super chat.
There you go.
I have the ability to. Yeah. When answering these questions, do you at times use a magic 8-ball that we cannot see on camera? No. Hopefully our answers are better than a magic 8-ball, but sometimes when I answer a question, especially when I've been accused of drug usage before the show, maybe it does sound like a magic 8-ball. But no, we try to know what we're talking about a little bit, and we try to give good answers. No.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, man. Some of the questions, and I mean, I love all the questions. Don't get me wrong, but some of the questions, it's like, who's going to be the backup safety for week 3 of the season next year? When people ask me that, sometimes I do just pick a random person. Like it's unanswerable,
Yeah.
Or like when people ask you, hey, who, the second somebody decommits or the second a coach leaves, hey, who can we go get now? It's like, well, let me make one phone call.
No phone calls allowed. Jeffrey, is that I'm going to get made fun of. Boy, I hope there's no zoographers or zoologists. I mean, zoographer, I'm going to get made fun of now. Zoologist on the show. But is that a sloth on the profile pic there for YouTube? Or I think that's a sloth, pretty sure. Let us know again. You don't have to super chat us to answer the question at all. But to me, that looks like a sloth.
Dang, man. Somebody said my hairline was looking crooked. That's just how it's laying right now, y'all. It's a tough crowd today. I mean, we literally get paid to sit here and have people talk shiz about us. Russ says sloths are lit. The Friday free-for-all shows are the most fun.
Zoographer, yes.
Do y'all think Wes would protect Chris against a tomato attack? Yes, I would. All right, real question from Greg Lee. With the $14.99, so it doesn't feel like $15, so you don't have to tell your wife you spent $15 on this. Thoughts on roster management going forward? And it's a lot of spots there, Greg. Specifically receiver, LB, DB, portal, and junior college. Any chance that JC or two could be finishing academic work and come in August to improve roster and count to next year? You know, those are the positions, Chris, I'd say we've been focused on for the most part. It's sort of I think we sort of had to add quarterback in there. We know sort of what's going on there. We already talked about it. We had to maybe add the potential of, like a guy like Jakeem Green. We had to add defensive end. Obviously, they went and got a pass rush type guy in Strachan. But those are the positions we've been tracking. And wide receiver, I'm trying to think. I don't think there is a junior college guy we're still on, as far as following at receiver. Obviously, in the portal, you're still looking at A.J. Jenkins. And then you're looking at Jordan Mosley, the Tennessee commit, who's a freshman, or will be a freshman, high school guy, I should say. And you sort of I get the sense that you sort of hear that he maybe will not end up at Tennessee. So I think South Carolina's in a good position there. You may be more familiar with the two JUCO guys at linebacker, Chris, than I am. Joko Willis, and then what's the other kid's name? Bam
Scott.
Yes. He's the guy that actually fits what Greg is talking about, in that he's waiting on his academic situation. It may be ideal for South Carolina if a kid like that could come in August, Chris, and then you push him to 2022.
Yeah, maybe so. If you could do that. Now, so to go back to Joko Willis, still, unless something's happened, technically committed to Kentucky, but widely expected to not sign with Kentucky unless something changes. And so South Carolina's got a good shot there. He's a kid who's really athletic. He was all-state at junior college now, but he played high school ball in the state of Georgia, was all-state 1 year as a receiver, all-state another year as a linebacker. So really athletic kid. They've got a shot with him. Bam Scott's a guy that, like you said, Wes, there's an academic component. Got to wait and see how things go. He had a good semester last time out. Needs another good one this semester, is my understanding. But a couple guys that they have wanted and may be able to get there. Wide receiver, I totally agree with what you said. Obviously, quarterback, pass rusher. They got a guy there in Jordan Strong that can help. I think DB is the big question, right? Will some other junior college guys come up? One out of high school is, Juwan Gaston from Alabama. Guys, held his signing until February. South Carolina in the final three there with Tennessee, and he threw South Alabama in for a sort of not hometown, but maybe home state pick. I think South Carolina's got a good shot there, and is a guy that they like. So I would anticipate probably some more portal guys, or maybe even some more junior college guys coming up late at the DB position too.
Yeah, and I mean, guys are still entering the portal every day, it seems like, and we've talked about this. There's going to be guys in the portal after the spring as well, so you sort of have to be careful about not spending all your scholarships now if you're wanting to add them to your roster potentially. At least give yourself that flexibility for later. Somebody asked about Connor Jordan. He is from Georgia. Actually, no, I am a absolute liar. I could have sworn this kid was from Georgia. He's from Raleigh, North Carolina.
I thought Connor Jordan was from Georgia too. We were both on the same page with that.
Well, all right, hold on.
There's got to be a conspiracy. Is this a Jimmy Lindsey situation?
It may be, man, because it said, all right, high school is Millbrook. Millbrook is in Georgia, right? There's a
Millbrook in Raleigh as well. It's where Keith Marshall played. Maybe that's what I was thinking. I might have been thinking Millbrook, and I might have been thinking, what's the school? I think maybe Kelsey Griffin played there.
Yes.
Mill Creek, maybe.
That's right.
I
Okay.
think that's
All
right.
right.
Yeah, we're mixing
Yes,
it up.
he's from Raleigh apparently, but anyway. Dang, y'all saying I got a crooked hairline and a bad hair day. This is a good hair day for me, y'all. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Let's see. We got more super chats. Where y'all at? And then I want to talk about Taurean Gray a little bit because he was made official today. And Chris, did you talk about Taurean a little bit on Wednesday after I hopped off?
Yes. I know that I said I was going to talk about him, and then I don't recall because it was sort of active. We can go back and double back to it a little bit more, I guess. Maybe the people don't remember what I said. If I don't even remember talking about it, it must have not been that great. But but yeah, Taurean, I think a good ad for the staff. Obviously, a lot of familiarity with Shane Beamer. He played at Virginia Tech. Taurean Gray coached with Shane Beamer, has NFL experience, played for a while in the league, had to end his career due to a knee injury, and then was at Florida. And so he's from Lakeland, Florida. He's got ties down there. You've seen him been really active on the recruiting trail already down in the state of Florida, well regarded in recruiting circles down there, and has done a good job typically where he's been at Virginia Tech, at Florida, and bringing in defensive backs who are good and regarded as a good coach. So I think that was a good ad for them, a guy that's potentially going to be able to give them something in recruiting as well as on the coaching front.
Yeah, and Chris, I think I'm probably more impressed with what he did at Virginia Tech as far as we've talked about this quite a bit. I mean, he signed some really good players at Florida, right? Well, we've said it doesn't always translate when a guy's a great recruiter at sort of a logo school. And then, they get to South Carolina that's trying to build itself into being a logo school. So, I think when you look at what he did at VT for that decade, he's still able to go get players, still able to develop NFL guys. To me, that probably means you're going to have a pretty nice transition, to South Carolina, I think. So I think it's a good fit in that sense. And I didn't want to be like we were talking out of both sides of our mouth because, we've sort of pushed that theory a lot that you want guys who can go get players at non-name schools. Well, then Taurean Gray comes in, 2 stints in Florida. And obviously he was there and he signed really good players. But you look back, there's a long track record going back to that full 10 years at VT of him going, we posted the list of guys that are in the NFL. Now, Gray coached in the NFL, actually coached DJ Swearinger, but this is just guys that he coached in college and then went on to the NFL, and it is a very extensive list.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you look at, Kendall Fuller is one that really stands out at Virginia Tech. Did a really good job there, developing guys, recruiting guys there. Obviously, the NFL experience is going to be something that could appeal to recruits because this is a guy that, played at a high level in college, played in the NFL, has also coached at high levels of college, coached in the NFL. And so, Taurean is someone that likes to talk about DBU and stuff like that, a little bit. Talked about it at Florida, has even talked about it at South Carolina. DJ Swearinger coming out saying that he spoke with Taurean Gray, which obviously Gamecock fans will love, given the affinity for DJ Swearinger, rightfully so. So, I thought it was a good, solid hire. A guy that we heard very early in the process as a potential ad for Shane Beamer, and it ended up working out there.
No doubt. All right, let's try to hit Greg's. We're going to need that magic 8 ball for this question. Appreciate the beer money again. Who do y'all think today would be game 1 DBs, 2 corners, 2 safeties, and a spur? Good grief. For the first time in, since we've been doing this, I may actually have to consult a roster because they lost so many people in the secondary, the fact that I couldn't just give you 5 names like that, probably not a great sign for South Carolina.
Yep.
I would say, let's start with some obvious ones, right? I think Cam Smith is definitely going to be a starter somewhere. I will say RJ Roderick at Spur. I just got a feeling that that's where he sort of starts out. Do you think Isaiah Norris can land the other starting cornerback spot, Chris?
That's what I was wondering. That, and so for me, I still have questions in terms of nickel, right? Like what exactly the skill set is that they're looking for there. So is it more of a situation where you're going, all right, best five? Because look, they're not going to be in a situation where you feel like you've got 8 or 10, and then you're just finding the best combo. Like the best five may be your five, you know what I mean? And then you've got to really narrow it down and figure it out. They're not going to have a ton of depth one way or another. So for me, I thought, okay, is Norris, maybe does he play nickel or does he play corner? But I think he could. I think skill set wise, he could be one of those corners or nickel.
So are you making, is nickel the same as the Spur to you, or are these?
Yeah, see, that's my question. Is it, it was a DB group at Western Kentucky, right? But it was a little bit different than just a safety or a corner, obviously. But it wasn't like it was considered more of a DB, But that said, I just don't know exactly how they're going to structure it, because I think it sort of hinges on RJ a little bit, because when you look at guys that can play nickel or have played some version of a nickel in the past, he comes to mind. And then, if he's a nickel, Wes, who's the other safety? Like Jalen Dickerson could probably be one, but is Jalen Foster one? Are you looking at maybe playing Joey Hunter at safety instead of corner? That's a hard one, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other guys that maybe. I mean, you're gonna honestly, dude, you're gonna need to have a big offseason from, some of your freshmen from this past season. I mean, you look at, like you said, a Joey Hunter, who else? Dom Hill.
Yep.
Let's see, the Sumter kid.
Yeah, OD Fortune's a guy that,
And then I'll tell you, the guy that I think could be the beneficiary of all this would be a Darius Rush, who really started to come on. You hear he started to come on this past season, was dealing with some injuries, then was dealing with COVID, and just had a lot, but actually had, I think an opportunity to play a good bit late, and then just had those things happen. So I think if you throw him into the mix as well. But, if you're South Carolina, man, you really need to possibly find another transfer. I think that could come in and maybe in an ideal situation, I think lock down a cornerback spot for you.
Yeah, because that's the one that you really look at and feel like this team needs, if when we're talking about portal guys, immediate help. They found guys at some other spots. David Spalding. I mean, he could be. We didn't even talk about him. Could he be a guy for you there out of Georgia Southern? I mean, what is he? Is he a corner? Is he a safety? I feel like he has to be a guy for you. And that, it's with. I don't know. I feel like you need another transfer DB. I'm with you on the same page. On the same page with you as that, because you look at some of the other positions they hit. They might hit on a receiver and a quarterback out of the portal, as we discussed. They hit on a pass rusher. Junior college. They hit on a transfer linebacker in Debo Williams. They got a couple of JUCO guys and irons in the fire and wide receivers from some other spots too. But I feel like another DB from somewhere, whether it's high school, whether it's junior college, whether it's transfer, a guy that no matter where he's from can come in and play to pair with the guys on the roster. And Spalding, I think it's going to be really big. But Spalding will have a chance. Dom Hill, I've always been intrigued by. He didn't really get in there a lot last year. Joey Hunter has talent, I think. But there's just so many unknowns because we haven't seen a lot of these guys.
Let's see. Cartwright. Apparently, we've been ignoring Cartwright's question. D-line and O-line coach. What do y'all think? Well, I think Jimmy Lindsey is going to be the D-line coach.
Yeah, he's hired. Well, that's a done deal. Yeah. Y'all, we try to get all these questions that we can. Like, I know y'all have to ask more than once sometimes, but our little thing that we see on the right, like it blows up. It's hard to keep up with sometimes.
O-line coach, I mean, it has been, I won't say completely quiet. It's been somewhat quiet. I would say this, it hasn't been this like cut and dry thing like it was with Jimmy Lindsey. And we put a couple more names on GamecockCentral.com. What was that, yesterday? I think we had a Thursday update. If you're a subscriber, you can go check it out. Now, Chris, I would have to imagine that this is a hire that they're going to want to knock out like at some point by the end of this weekend, maybe, right? I mean, you're down to your final hire. They're going to need to get this thing done soon. The players, came back to campus this past week. The players can actually start, lifting and all that stuff with Luke Day next week. So I got to imagine this hire, without knowing anything as far as being given a timetable, I got to imagine this thing's coming down soon.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of people ask why is it taking so long? I think it's just working through candidates, trying to find a guy. Brent Key was a guy that was very, very involved and ended up staying. And so when I say back to square one, I don't want to make that sound negative, but you are going out and you're fielding some other candidates at that point, whether they're coming to you, you're going to them. And so just continuing to work through that and finding the best guy. So we don't know yet, but it'll have to be soon, like you said, Wes. And Cartwright also followed up asking about what we thought about Jimmy Lindsey. We had, if you'll go back earlier in the show, we talked about Jimmy Lindsey a good bit, but just as a quick, Sherall native, born in Sherall, has experience with Clayton White, had some staff carryover with Marcus Satterfield, regarded well as a recruiter, has a good track record coaching, 20-something all-conference picks, 7 All-Americans, 5 conference players of the year, coached the conference player of the year at Western Kentucky in 2019 too. So pretty well-regarded guy.
All right, y'all. I think that's going to do it for the Friday free-for-all. Appreciate the time, the effort. Appreciate the tips as well. Always appreciate the support. If you missed the first part of the show, you can always go back, youtube.com/GamecockCentral, or I will be uploading it if you just want to listen to it on all the major podcast platforms. Chris, you got anything else, man?
I don't, man. I hope everybody has a great weekend and appreciate everybody tuning in.
All right. Yeah, appreciate it. Jeffrey Hicklin giving us a super sticker. I don't even know what that is, but I saw one earlier too. Appreciate it, my friend. Appreciate the super chats. Appreciate the support, and y'all have a great weekend. We'll see you all on Monday.